Has the thought, I wonder if the world is flat, ever crossed your mind? Just secretly to yourself. Don't be so ridiculous. Of course we know the Earth is round. But how do we really know that? We've put a lot of faith in those astronomers, scientists and bodies like NASA. But in a world where trust in experts, certainly in matters of history, archaeology, religion and governance, is rapidly eroding, it really is time to wake up. Are we actually just not asking the right questions? So why on earth am I wading in on this topic? I'm not even sure that I ever considered the Earth was flat or whether it was round for a very long time. I guess you just always see it presented as round, so therefore you just go, the Earth's round. So then I saw a documentary on Netflix. It was a few years ago, and it was that documentary about those flat earthers, and they're out trying to do experiments. Some weren't better than others. God love them. Yeah, maybe that's when I really started questioning it. Anyway, more recently, for some reason, all sorts of things around this have been popping up in things that I've been watching, conversations and presentations and videos, like not even about flat Earth or round Earth, and then suddenly it'll come into conversation, and yeah, like when something keeps happening like that and it tweaks your interest, you think, I want to get into that a bit more. She's out of bed again. And this video has taken a few attempts because, as is often the case, I don't quite always crystallise entirely what I want to say. So you will notice that the continuity department of this particular production are basically on holiday. And you may think I've gone mad. God, now she's starting to think that the Earth is flat. But bear with it, because it's not entirely about flat Earth, round Earth. So if you're in the round Earth camp, I would say keep watching, because this wasn't really intended to be a flat Earth, round Earth video. There's something a bit more to it than that. And if you're on the not sure, or maybe it's flat, or maybe it's something else, then yeah, there could be a lot in this video for you too. And if you just like to delve into the mysteries of life and the mysteries of the world and the wonders of it all, then yeah, there's something in it for you too. So a few weeks ago, I was watching a conversation between two guys. One of them, I'm sure he lived in Canada, North America, Alaska, somewhere up. They started talking about, they're having a completely different conversation, and they got onto flat Earth, round Earth. And he was saying he didn't fall on either side because there were valid arguments on both sides. And on the flat Earth side, there were some arguments that just, ludicrous, but there were some that warrant further scientific investigation. And how it struck me how people are very quick to write off anything that's slightly different to the norm and wonder why that is. So there's another chap, Richard Vobes, who he's English guy, he's got a funny channel, he interviews people and does his own little monologue-y things, and he has people on that write all sorts of interesting books and do lots of interesting research. And there was a guy called Ian, it doesn't say his surname, and he's a flat earther. And he had all sorts to say, things like, so the curvature of the Earth, this is the one thing, when the Netflix program came on, one of the things is the curvature of the Earth. And I think I've quite often stood, because I come from, a hilly place, Dartmoor, and I've often thought, well, how come if the curvature of the Earth, I shouldn't be able to see Exmoor today, or I shouldn't be able to see Wales today, or and you just think, why can't, it's always bugged me how you can see further. Anyway, then a friend of mine the other day, he was saying that family of his in Australia, they've completed their vet qualifications, 7 years, whatever, and they've gone off on this amazing trip, and they've been somewhere in America where they're horseback riding, basically cowboying, rounding up the big herds, the big beef herd, and steering it to wherever. And they had to have, so there's X amount of riders with X amount of cattle, but the herd is so big that they have to have a helicopter. And he said that the helicopter is to go up to compensate for the curvature of the earth, because the herd is that big that the riders on the horseback can't see the front of the herd. Wow, really? So, you know, it weighs down on both sides. So the chap, this Ian, he said, go and ask any pilot. He said, go and ask any pilot whether they have to make any adjustment for the curvature of the earth. And they say, no, of course we don't, because it's flat. And apparently in 2016, there were 2 Qantas pilots who wanted to expose this, like bring it out into the public domain. And they were both fired. And it was all sort of, you know, usual story, all hushed. But apparently, yes, they make no adjustment for curvature of the earth. So, oh, and there's a bit about the sun's course. I'm sure they won't mind me putting this bit of clip in here to explain, to show you it better than I can explain. When you question like how the dome, you know, if it's flat earth and we're all in a dome, how does that work with seasons and the sun? So this is his explanation of it.
Our sun in our summer moves around. Here's all our major land masses here. The UK's here, America, South America, etc., Australia. In our summer solstice, our sun moves very slowly around here. That's why our days are so long. But every 3 months, it gets further and faster and moves out. And eventually it goes round to the Tropic of Capricorn. And the sun moves between the tropics. Capricorn is here, equator here, Tropic of Cancer here. And it stays and moves within those. So it doesn't go outside. It doesn't go out into Antarctica enough to melt it for good. What it does do is it gets there to give you light around it. And then obviously it just works its way in and out in a clockwise pattern. Small, further out, further out, further out, further out.
Oh, and also with the aeroplanes, aeroplane, because apparently they just go up along a plane and down again. So it's not called like an aeroglobe or an aerosphere. So, and he said that that is observationally how the sun works. That's how we observe it and record it. And also that's how the ancient people, that's what they believed. Now you can say, oh, you know, ancient people, what did they know? Well, turning out more and more that they knew a lot more than we think that they knew. There's a chap, I have to get his name, he was talking at the Cosmic Summit, English chap again, huge researcher into all sorts of things, and he was talking about the Antikythera clock. It's not a clock, it's a mechanism, and it's got differential gearing. Differential gearing is something that doesn't show up until 1300 and something, when Europeans were making very clever astronomical clocks. It's dated 250 BC, but it's the only known example. So this is the other thing, you know, we state all this, but you can only really say, oh, this is by what we've got evidence of now. So anyway, we have got evidence of this. This is basically called a calculator, or the first analog computer. 250 BC, differential gearing. I mean, yeah, that's just one of many anomalies. You only have to watch Graham Hancock and then whatever pops up on YouTube after you've watched some of his videos. And Greg Braden talking about ancient civilizations, and De Silva and is it Freddie De Silva? There's loads of it out there. There's just too many anomalies. And I think it's waking people up. So something else that popped up is the Hegelian dialect. Now this was in a conversation between Professor Hamamoto and Dr. What is her lady's name? I never remember all the names. Doing very well today. Hegelian dialect, that's popped up. Hegelian dialectic, that's popped up in other things. So and in unrelated things. So it's basically that there's a team A and a team B, and you're kind of, you know, flat earth, round earth, and you're pitched in this thing. You're either in it team A or you're in team B, and this lot think that this lot are cranks, and that thinks that lot are bloody idiots, and you know, and so we go on. So I looked up Hegelian dialectic, and it says, so there's thesis, the initial idea, it generates its opposite, antithesis, and the tension between them is resolved by a new, more complex idea, which is synthesis, that incorporates elements of both. So yeah, I've heard this mentioned a few times, but sort of in a negative context, that there was just the thesis and the antithesis, the A and the B. And I was thinking initially when I started thinking about this video, and they're right, they do this all the time, don't they? The powers that be set us because it's distraction, but also it's setting weakness and calamity and chaos, because by having two groups pitching against each other, your flat earthers, your earth round. But if you take that into more sort of people left wing, right wing, as it's proposed to be at the minute, yeah, you're just causing more dis-ease and keeping everybody. But anyway, this is saying that incorporates elements of both. And so it's a thing of like, actually we've had A and B, and be it flat earth or round earth, which it could actually be just some completely other shape. The guy, Ian, who was talking about flat earth, he was saying, well, if we are on a flat plane and we're all in puddles, who's to say there aren't more puddles outside the wall of ice? And in the video about Antarctica, they're talking about this ice wall that is 260 foot, I think. And it's just, that's kind of, when you do get to go there, that's what you're met with. There's 2 or 3 inlets, I think. And otherwise it's just this like massive wall of ice. And then Ian, the guy, he's talking about the ice wall, because Richard's saying, oh, well, you know, how's the water not pouring off? How's, you know, and he says that there's a wall of ice. Yeah, and the Antarctica thing, that's another thing, isn't it? The Antarctic Treaty is one that pretty much all the countries signed, and you're just not allowed near it. People go there on cruises. These chaps talk about it. They go on cruises, and you're dropped off to see a certain bit of it, and you wouldn't really know where you were anyway. There's somebody said that there could be some other island somewhere out. You just, I don't know. Anyway, it's an odd thing. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that it's an odd thing that they just won't let you near it. No one anywhere near it. And yeah, interesting. And that's interesting because there was another guy, I need to remember what I saw it on. There was another guy, he'd been to the UN building in New York, I think, and he said that in the entrance lobby he saw a thing on the wall, and it was like their logo with the world spread out flat, but around it was like an ice wall. That was like the Antarctic ice wall that they talk about, but beyond that there were more and more continents. And then there was another thing I was watching recently. What was that? And there was a Japanese map, and the Japanese map showed a lot more continents, a lot more bodies of land outside of what was recognised as the Earth as we know it. Oh, and that makes me think, this book that I got. Now, I started looking in the early ones in here. Interestingly, this is from A Medieval Image of the Earth, early 15th century manuscript, L'Image du Monde, by Gautier de Metz. And that, yeah, it's the Earth in the middle. Now, that's the starry sky. It's funny how it's got the big sort of ice at the bottom of it. Anyway, then I started going through. See, now there's this one. This is a manuscript world map by Francesco Gissolfi Florence, 1565. Now these marks are the mountain ranges, and interestingly, that would have to be Antarctica, and it's got mountains on it. Equally, it goes right up the north. Now, I looked at some of these, and they do actually mark mountainous regions as we know them. They've got the Pyrenees in there, they've got the Alps in there, they've got the one that lots of maps have got over, skirting up over Russia. Here we have one of the ones where the notion of water around the outside. John Corbicon, 1482, an artistic fantasy based on a world map. This has fish in it, so suggesting that water is on the outside. Betus map, 1109. It's not hard to imagine that it is a flat disc. I don't know why, something about this image. I mean, that would be like, this is Antarctica, kind of melding in Australia and places as well. I think this is 1450 Catalan world map. Very simple, similar thing in the Aldrezeri, a 1456 from a 12th century original. Similar sort of a shape. Francesco Roselli, 1508. And we see a big old Antarctica at the bottom. Let's see, have they got a flat earth map in? They've got United Nations map, paleocontinent, pirates and travellers, Stanford Library map, British Empire map, Crystal Palace Games map. Funnily enough, world geology. Funnily enough, not seeing a flat earth one here. Other than they're all flat because they're maps. When you see it as a map, that's why it's not too hard to imagine the earth is flat, because you're always looking at it flat, aren't you? Anyway, that's quite enough of that. So Praveen Mohan, in one of his videos, he shows how the earth is represented, and represented as round and as flat, but also as curved, but curved that way, not that way. So again, you can think, oh, you know, what did they know back then? They knew so much back then. Like, if you really think they were cavemen with some sort of just no technology at all, a lot of the ancient megalithic monuments we're looking at these days on lots of videos and things, there's no way they weren't doing that with some sort of special clever thing. And their knowledge of astronomy and astrology, and which wasn't to be poo-pooed. It wasn't the crystal sniffers back then, you know. Yeah, they knew so much more. Stuff that we're all learning now, it's all coming out more and more now, which is amazing. And I think, yeah, things are on the shift. So by way of rounding up, we've got the curvature or no curvature, the Antarctica thing, anomalies in history that are certainly making us question everything about our history and even scientific world and medicine and governance and all kinds of things. But we're still getting into this like Hegelian dialectic, pitching A against B. But actually, when I learnt about Hegelian dialectic, I can hardly even say it, they fuse because of a new, more complex idea. It synthesises from the two, so A and B can mould together. And that's making me think about this thing of awakening. Like, we need to mould together our spiritual awakening, and I think of as earth, real life material awakening, and I think the two need to run along together. This is all very ethereal, and it gets us in connection with God, of whatever understanding that is to you, source, you know, where it's all come from, where it's all started. And what's going on in the real world. So I don't want to get too involved in everything that's on the news and things. I don't watch the news anymore, but I do find I need to keep up with snippets to have an understanding and be a bit switched on to what is going on in the world, but not giving too much energy to it, and not trying to get into a camp A or a camp B, because at the end of the day, does it really matter whether the earth is flat or whether the earth is round? I think in that particular frame, it's more about if this is a flat earth or a curved earth or a curved earth or some sort of slightly wobbly squashed, the thing that's going to come out of that is that the people that have been telling us, really important people, they've claimed themselves to be ever so important, if it was really that it was some other type of a shape and there is something going on at Antarctica, or it is a great globe, but actually there's more. We're kept in a small portion of it, maybe. Who knows what the thing is? Don't be pitching against each other. Do your spiritual work, do your work on yourself to why you react to things, and trying to you be more in the world of like wanting to work with everybody, because we're all in the same boat. We're all in the flat earth or the round earth. But yeah, if it came out that it was something different, then those people in power, I'm not sure they'd be in power anymore, because their power would have been taken, because they just like everything would just unravel then. If something big like that, I think maybe if that's why there really are extraterrestrials. Oh, that was another thing that the guy Ian said. He talked about stuff from biblical scripture, and he talked about when there's the firmament, because God separated the two waters. So the firmament, basically outside of that, he's saying that there is water. It's all water. And immediately I thought of some ET stuff. I thought, why they say there's like underwater bases, and how there's like those Navy pilots and American Air Force pilots that have the footage of a thing that is the light that's travelling at crazy speeds, and then poof, it just disappears into the ocean. Not a problem at all. And so that made me think, okay, so if other people that are talking about like ET races, they never really left from the Sumerian times. They never really, the Nephilim and the giants and all the rest of it. I know this just gets too big. I'm trying to keep it really focused. What if they are shapeshifters and outside is water and they've come from outside, then well, they're going to be fine under the sea. Oh, also that makes me think about Thingy Wallace, Greg Wallace, that talks about, is his name Greg Wallace? The Aussie chap that's born in England that was raised in somewhere else. He talks about the stories of the ancient peoples that when people have been abducted for, I think one woman was disappeared off the west coast of Africa for 3 years, I think 2-3 years, but she came back and she'd been taken. She describes being taken into the sea from the beach by really beautiful people, and she was used for breeding, and she lived there, and then they brought her back. But that is a modern day story. But those sorts of stories, he's done research on this, and there's other people as well, but those stories go back into ancient people, back and back and back, which also made me think of things that I've seen about how the Quetzalcoatl and the Seven Sages and all of them, the ones that bring the knowledge, half man, half fish, or in fish garb. Graham Hancock talks about this, but there are others that talk about this. They come out of the water. All these things that I'm suddenly thinking of as I'm trying to round it up. And just for good measure, just at almost the last minute, Professor Brian Cox turns up. I just happened to click on a video that's like enough Brian Cox to put you to sleep or something. Now, I think it's something like exciting, mind-blowing science things. Anyway, whatever it is. And so he's talking about, as I'm thinking about the Earth being flat or not being flat, he throws in the mix that space could be flat.
Space itself, a three-dimensional space that's curved in 4 dimensions, That's what some models of the universe suggest, a kind of 3D surface of a 4D sphere. So you could, in principle, travel in a straight line forever and never reach an end, never fall off, never hit anything, just space repeating and looping back on itself. And that's the strange thing, because when we look out into the cosmos using measurements of the cosmic microwave background, the relic radiation from the Big Bang, we don't see a clear edge. We don't see anything that says, here's the end. That lack of visible curvature at large scales, that's led some scientists to propose that maybe the universe is flat.
So the flat Earth, round Earth thing, it's just one example of how we can pitch ourselves against each other based on our beliefs. And am I really losing the plot? Am I going a bit crazy because I'm questioning things, because I'm looking at stuff that is labelled crazy? And where has that label come from? Why has that become a thing? You know, you have to, again, look out at the broader picture. But what has long come out of the flat Earth, round Earth thing for me is, and you can apply this to all sorts of things: crystals, energies, earth energies, astrology, ETs, religions, you name it. We so often we don't just put ourselves in team A and team B, but we can become so defensive, so arrogant, and conceited enough to just dismiss others, deride them, avoid them even. Others who have different views and opinions from ourselves. And when it comes down to things like, is the earth flat or round, does it really matter? Like living your life, daily life, we've all been living here generations and none of it has mattered. And yet some people get, quite funny about it, and definitely dismissive or derisive. Well, you know, you don't really believe in that, do you? Good grief. But what I think that's doing is it's shutting us down to possibilities. Okay, some of it, like I say, what does it matter? We don't need to know. But there are lots of things going on at the minute that I think we need to all be switching on to a bit more and exploring what really could be. There's so much coming out now, such great content, on YouTube especially. People going out and doing all this amazing research in ancient history and archaeology, and yeah, there's lots in there that you just think, wow, okay. And if you start getting into secret societies and all sorts of things like that, oh God, there's so many fields. Quantum physics, I mean, yeah, there's oodles of it. I wonder what it would be like if everyone was open to exploring. Like literally the vast majority. And the things that people would think you were a bit bonkers for, you know, for even questioning, like flat Earth, round Earth, that just wouldn't even be a thing. Because imagine being in a world where we all exchanged experiences and information, like as we met people along the way, and everyone was still different, and they all had different stories and different things of different knowledge. But you all just exchanged it, and you might not agree with all of it, but you took it on board. And no one would think you were nuts for just questioning stuff, for being on the different side of the fence. We were just all open to everyone's opinions and understanding and knowledge. Yeah, it'd be a very, very different world. But as I always believe, there is good stuff going on all the time. And I think that especially if anything is to give you some heart, you only have to look on, say, the people that are making content on YouTube and see the numbers, the thirst for interest in this sort of data, a new narrative. And it's not even a new narrative. They're just talking about like really ancient stuff. And but it's becoming clear today, you know, why it matters. And yeah, I think it's just a sure sign of a mass awakening. people broadening their views, people opening and extending their consciousness. It's, yeah, interesting times. And that in itself shows this is not the stuff that you're going to hear about on the news or out in the, you know, mass media, but look at the numbers. It's, there are millions of people switching on to all kinds of things and questioning what we've been told and how we believe it's all to be and how it has been. And yeah, to do that, but no one's in Team A or Team B. You've all exchanged information and you've synthesised back together. Fantastic. And in a quest for being our best, most loving selves, not some type of goody-goody two-shoes. No, I mean living in your full potential and being who you really are. And world is difficult at the minute. So I think what it comes down to is material earth awakening, spiritual awakening. I don't think they're necessarily separate. I think it's all in. But it's waking up to what's going on in the world, having an awareness and just looking into some things that people just go, conspiracy theory, get your tin hat on, that's ridiculous. Yeah, there's so much floating about that I'm not sure if it's A or B. I think there's at least a C. And we're being distracted with the A and the B. So I think it's broadening that world view, that cosmic view, really like taking it all in, sitting with stuff, thinking what feels right for you, what makes sense. You've got to watch both sides to have a balance, to be in the middle of what makes sense. And I think it's exciting to explore stuff, bat around all the information, contemplate stuff. I wonder this and I wonder that. That's usually how I get into these things. Oh, I wonder if, and that would be a shame not to have those wonderings. I think that's what makes up the richness for me, is that there are, there's so much going on now with research and all this, and it can be a complete overload, but at the same time, it's part of the adventure finding out. And, but yeah, it's the material world awakening, the outer, the exterior, as well as the inner world awakening, the inner connection to source. Yeah, I just think that, and it's very easy to say, and we do react a lot from our emotions and our heads these days rather than from our heart. And if we're listening to our heart, because we're working on the spiritual side of things, we're more in connection. We're more in connection with God, and that intuitive voice that I think is the same thing as that, whether that's higher self, source, whatever. And if a lot more people were doing that, if they really were doing that, there wouldn't be an A and a B. The A and the B would synthesize. It would be the full Hegelian dialectic coming through the cycle. The tension is resolved, as it's described, by coming into synthesis with each other. Do with that what you will. Peace be with you. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe. Still very small numbers, but it's not about the rush. If you've got anything from this video at all, do hit the like button. Or you just fancy being kind, hit the like button. And if you think there's somebody that would enjoy this, there's a little share arrow and you can send it by WhatsApp or however you like.